finally, we learned about the unique online methods for theater from Assistant Professor Olive Nieto from the University of the Philippines. Now, for today's closing session, we will learn about how today's young artists can maximize the available technologies and digital platforms from our all-international roster of speakers. So, without further ado, let's begin. Our first speaker is renowned for her outstanding contribution to both the arts and education scenes in Hong Kong. She has presented research papers not just in her home city, but also in Penang, Brisbane, and London. As CEO of the Absolutely Fabulous Theatre Connection, she leads a driven team in nurturing young people through creative teaching and learning across various art forms. Under her leadership, the group earned several citations both locally and internationally for their signature projects. And today, she will talk about innovative technologies in teaching and performing the arts as we gear up for the new normal. Let's give a warm welcome to Ms. Lynn F.C. Yau.
Good morning. I'm terribly happy to be here today with the ASEAN University Network on Culture and the Arts. I would first of all like to start by thanking Glory Samadio and her team for having me here today. What a lovely topic to be talking about, although we are still all in pandemic times. But nothing is lost, as I hope the next half an hour will show everybody. So can we move to my PowerPoint? And I assure you, I will try my very best not to bore you. First of all, let me tell you a bit about the Absolutely Fabulous Theatre Connection, or AFTEC in short. We are about 13 years old and we are bilingual. So we work in English and in Chinese in Hong Kong. We are a learning theatre. That means we work with over 150 schools and educational institutions per year. And we also cross sectors. We work with those who love the arts, who want to get to know the arts. We work with those who are in social work and also in the medical humanities, mainly medical undergraduates. Because like you, we believe that the arts can be everywhere and they can be for everybody. We actually have a small proscenium theatre of about 480 seats in a government building. And we are all about learning processes. So I'm going to take this next 30 minutes, in fact, to take you all on a journey. This is not about how wonderful we are, having finished with products or started with products rather. This is about the process of how we got here today in June 2021, all the way back to when the first wave of the pandemic, COVID-19, hit Hong Kong in late January 2020. We will share some of the work that we've done. We will share quite a lot of thinking over the last year and a bit so that you understand and maybe also share what we have been through. And before I end, I will offer some insights for possible questions and answers and discussion. So if that's all right with you, let's go. So what's in a crisis, we always think? Well, I'd like to show you two Chinese words for crisis. The first one looks like this. And the second one has a lot more strokes. So the one on the left means danger. And the one on the right means opportunities. So this is how in Chinese we see danger. Now, if you look at the word danger again, right on top, it's like a person sliding off a cliff. You will see this in red shortly. Then you have a very flimsy house, a roof over your head, and then you're sort of all crouched inside. So that's really a personification of the word for danger. Then the opportunity word has a lot of strokes. You will see the element for war. Now this word, this side is for war in red, but you also see the element for wood. and wood often is used for building. And you'll see all the other elements like people working very hard together, getting together. So this is in fact what we believe in. From December 2019 all the way to February 2010, we had absolutely no productions because either the theatre was closed, as it's a government theatre, or all the educational institutions were closed as well. And as you can imagine, like all of you, income was minimal. But we said, nope, we are going to do something about it. So this is where technologies come in. Now, in Hong Kong, when we talk about innovative technologies, we are not at the stage in which we are doing virtual reality all the time, but augmented reality, yes. So if we can have the next slide, please. I must share this with you. During the times of crisis, we still went on Zoom to do our workshops. This is a dance workshop, modern dance workshop of young people, your age, university age. You can see the cramped conditions that everybody lives in. Top right, you will actually see a young dancer is working right in front of a washing machine. And you can see somebody's working on her bed, somebody is working in the bedroom. This is passion, this is dedication, and this is what we really believe in as well. Next slide, please. So let's move on to innovative technologies. When we did Grimm's Fairy Tales in October 2019, we didn't know that technology would play such a large role in our lives for the next 1.5 years. I'm going to show you a little bit in what I mean. This is Grimm's Fairy Tales, and you will see Hansel and Gretel moving towards the gingerbread house. And instead of opening the door, it's QR code.
Why did you use your phone to scan the QR codes? Wow! Chocolate cake! Chocolate cake! Try this one.
So this is how Hansel and Gretel actually got into the gingerbread house. And it was a lot of technology in October 2019, as if it was a premonition. What is important, however, is the preparation for what is called the new normal, or what we think is really a revolving normal. Tech has been a huge, huge support, but I can't emphasize more that it needs to be used widely. Since COVID started for us last January, we've had to work on a hybrid mode very quickly. So I'm trying to work on a new definition for divide and conquer here. On the left side, in our organization, being a small medium one, we had digital divide, we had intergenerational divide, and of course our expertise is very different. My young colleagues would be very good with tech, I'm not. But we thought living is very important. So we created a think tank in-house. SINE actually stands for survival is not enough, and it's an idea taken from 7 of 9 in Star Trek. These are the actual questions and constructs that we worked on. We wanted to look at the long-term mission. So we used the crisis as an opportunity to review the organization, to review our mission and values. And on May 25th, 2020, these are our objectives. So what we did with the diagram on the right is that we decided tech is here to stay because nobody knows how long the pandemic will be. And therefore, we split into groups, we did research, we discussed, we looked at our needs, and we came to a collective decision on what should be done. How did we use technologies in the performing arts then? Well, let's go through this slowly. First of all, AFTech is a teaching and learning theatre. Therefore, although we have productions on stage, a lot of our work involved starting on stage, going outside to educational institutions, or reversing that process. Schools, the public would come in to our theatre. Therefore, technology had to serve these purposes. We are not a producing theatre in that, unlike other theatres, they would constantly produce new shows and box office income would be what they have in the main. We have the arts and education in the main. As a result of the think tank and a lot of explorations, teamwork, research, we came up with DigiAvTech, which of course is the digital side of AvTech. There was one key question that we asked ourselves, and that is the key question. Since we deal in creative teaching and learning, what is appropriate for us? Now, technology is very dazzling. I'm sufficiently attracted to it in that the phone is second nature to me. It grows from my hand. But we decided, and I think in hindsight, wisely now, that we should not be looking simply at what is out there and say, oh, we like that, as if in a supermarket, we could pick different things up and add it all together. We spent quite a lot of time, in fact, from late January until June, July, simply researching, discussing, collaborating, and bringing everybody in the entire company, even down to the accountant, in teams to discuss who we are, what we want to do. In the end, in fact, we soft launched DigiAvTech in December 2020 with the tale of Robin Hood. So perhaps we can take you to a 30-second clip, and you will see that the actual show was filmed on stage without an audience, but we had added animation and computer graphics as well.
I'm tired of being a man.
What's a girl? A what?
Hit the target and announce your score.
Long live Robin Hood!
And when he gets here, I'll catch him.
This is the production that we actually put online in DigiAvTech for the public and for the schools to enjoy. As I said, we are a learning theatre. So where did the learning come in? Well, I'd like to show you various segments of how we did what we did. We thought there was no point simply just putting the show on stage and expect people to actually buy a ticket for that. So we offered an introduction. This is chapter 2, I believe.
Well, well, I think you have heard a lot about castles from all the stories you've heard. Have you ever wondered what it looks like on the inside?
This is the voice of Olva, the guide, and she guides everybody through it. In terms of learning, this is an English-based program for children in the way up to age of 12. And this is a pronunciation glossary, because we wanted to make our work a bit more interactive. Nothing is like live.
Attraction.
And all of you will remember, those of you who love theatre, hot seating. That theatre game when you ask questions, well, we decided let's hot seat in a 360 way, like this. So that teachers or the public or at home can ask questions as well. Of course, there is always the proverbial matching game when we discuss costumes and people had to match who was who. The system will tell you if it's correct or not. And obviously, with this example, it is correct. What is going online without some rendering? So here is a 360 rendering of the castle in Nottingham. There's also a bit of the kitchen, which you may or may not see here. Oh, this is the Grand Hall, the second one. So with the mouse at home or with your arrows, you can actually go inside Nottingham Castle. This is our initial attempt at DGF Tech, and as I said earlier, it was launched in December 2020. Moving ahead with hindsight and the soft launch that we did, we are looking at the formal launch of DGF Tech sometime next year. In the meantime, COVID not only had a positive effect and online. So this is going to be our latest project, and it's only starting early next month in July. You will see that this is all about arts-based, cross-curriculum, creative teaching and learning in schools. There are two diagrams. On the right, you will see every school, and it's 10 schools for the pilot year. There will be 2 teachers. We will send in 1 creative practitioner, and there will be 2 classes per school. On the left-hand side, the school will choose an academic subject, 1 other subject, it can be mathematics or language, and then they would also choose a creative domain. So we have 10 schools doing a lot of different things, from architecture to costume making to props making, etc. This collaborative triangle is extremely important, both live when we go into the classrooms and also blended learning. The focus here is on training the trainers when we work with teachers and creative practitioners on the curriculum. So this is something that we're very excited about that will happen. The upcoming launch next year will also include a young person's guide to the theatre. For those of you who know Benjamin Britten and his young person's guide to the orchestra, this is where we took the idea from. And we used a play which our artistic director, Dr. Vicky Wee, adapted called The Comedy of Mistakes. And it will be it will all be online, in fact. The production is actually generally known as from page to stage, but as you can see, it is now from page to stage to screen. Let me show you a bit of what we mean by turning the stage into screen.
Now, listen very carefully, Miss Stoner. When your stepfather returns, you must confine yourself to your room on the pretense of a headache. When you hear your father retire for the night, you must go to the window, open up the shutters, and leave a lamp on the windowsill as a signal to us. Then take everything that you want for the night and go to your old bedroom. I'm sure, in spite of the repairs, you can make do for the night.
Yes, of course.
The rest you shall leave in our hands.
But what will we do?
We shall spend the night in Miss Stoner's room. We shall investigate the cause of the noise which has disturbed her.
As you can all see, what we did was we filmed the stage production, but instead, again, of just uploading it onto the website for general viewing, our director, Dr. Wee, in fact changed it into a screen version. So I think by so doing, we're giving the audience a lot more to deal with, and of course, offering ourselves a lot of challenges as well. What about behind the scenes? Normally, after such a production, we would have the audience coming on stage for a stage tour. But since it's not possible, we decided, okay, we will bring the behind the scenes to you. First of all, here is a very fast-forwarded version of a snippet of what changing sets would look like. And this is a stage. I've mentioned Dr. Vicky Wee twice, our director and artistic director, and here she is on dressing the set, a thing that very few people know about, in fact.
Dressing the stage is cooperative work, a collaborative work, a creative work between the director and the set designer. You see the fireplace, which is an important piece of set in this play, but it looks kind of undressed, naked, if I may say. Look look at his books, look at all that. It shows his character. Now you're going to see also how we dress the fireplace with the proper accessories that come with an English fireplace, like thongs, like a poker. So this is set for this part of the room.
You can imagine how much work went into doing all this, but we enjoyed ourselves thoroughly. We have limited time in our theatre because we don't own it, the government owns it. But because of COVID, because of the crisis, we had a lot more chances to think seriously about what we wanted to do. And another thing that we really want to do is a project called Plays for Young People. This is the third series that we're going into in October, when we will invite 5 playwrights, our own artistic director, plus 4 others, one from Malaysia, one from Taichung, and 2 from London, who will actually bring their plays to Hong Kong. All these plays are suitable for young people from the ages of 14 to 21. In the last 6 years, we've done series 1 and 2, and we've translated 10 plays from the original language into English, then into Chinese. By next spring, we'll have another 5 ready. So we're calling for young Asian actors now. We would like to use our DigiAfTech platform to bring you all together to see if you might like to direct online or become part of a podcast so that the plays will come to life. Note this, and if you're interested, please contact me. Thank you. What insights do we have from the last 1.5 years? This is very important. Tech has given us a lot of support. Tech has also given us a lot of headache because we don't have a lot of resources. And I would say the very first thing is to know yourself. Why do we need to do that? Because we can therefore think very quickly on our feet, and we will be able to lead the organization in the times of crisis. That's why we have to know what we want to do, what our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats are. COVID provided us with this time to do it. Secondly, because of this, we took the opportunity to, in a way, evolved our organization from live to blended hybrid learning. Not only has the organization shifted as a result, but our teams and the individual colleagues in teams have also grown, I believe, in the last 1.5 years as they research, as they knew about the world outside, how they're coping, how they're not coping. As a learning theatre, it is important for our colleagues to gain personal growth as well. Because we all know that the virtual world will stay here for quite a while. It is our new reality. It is a reality that we have to accept, irrespective of how old we are. I am still trying to catch up. I might never in terms of tech skills, but in terms of reading, I've done so much more and thought so much more. It is here to stay. We also need to change the way we work. At AFTech, we have morphed our pedagogy. We have shaped it to be partly online, partly face-to-face, but the content and the way we write the content, we do our plays, we have to bear in mind that blended might be needed. The way we create our curriculum also has to align with both face-to-face and blended learning. One very important point is you have to watch your resources. You have to know how much you can afford. And I don't simply mean in terms of funds. Of course, last year, income has been minimal. We have a bit of reserves, but we can't use that all. So where is the focus of reserves? Our people, their minds, their creativity. We adapted to our pockets what we needed, both physically, cognitively, and of course, effectively. We needed to rally the whole team, and everybody in the organization was buzzing, I think, with energy because DigiAfTech is happening. Very important as well is please don't bankrupt yourself. This is going to be a long, long time. We need to stick to the vision. It is too easy to be attracted by the tech. Fortunately or unfortunately, we don't have the financial means to chase the best and most updated tech. And that in a way is very strange. It means we are much more grounded and we can play to our own strengths. The seventh insight that we have had is tech is only as good as your people's mindsets. A lot of people wouldn't understand and you would think, oh, let them get on with it. Don't get everybody on board yet. Absolutely not. We use the COVID lockdowns, first, second, and third, so that as we work from home, our colleagues will be researching as well, wondering what is out there, what is applicable, what we can localize. So do remember, the tech is only as good as our mindsets. Seriously, I used to be able to do 5-year planning, then 3 years. And now 1 year is already a dream. To be really, really realistic, 6 months is more like it. And I hope this is only going to be a short term. But I don't think the 5-year planning and the 3-year planning would ever come back again. So we have to be very practical. Very long-term planning has gone out of the window. It has been a very long 1.5 years. For myself, for example, this 1.5 years have felt like 3 years because the mind had to deal with contingencies galore. We have turned ourselves into contingency experts, but at the same time, you have to drive your organization forward. This is what tech has done to us, and this is a great chance to grow as a result of the crisis. Don't burn yourself out. Rather slow down, do less, get it done well, than to get all the whistles and bells up and think, oh God, how are we going to continue? Finally, I must emphasize everybody is important in the organization. As I said earlier, even the accountant came in to help, to give information, to feedback on what he was seeing online. Zoom fatigue happened to everybody, but I'm quite sure that after 1.5 years and where we are now, we have learned a lot. The next 1 year at least would still be an uphill battle with income, also with technology. But if we remember who we are, what we want to do, then we can overcome anything. Thank you so much. And I look forward to discussing any questions with all of you again. Thank you.
Thank you for that wonderful lecture, Ms. Lin. Oh, it's always interesting to learn about innovations, especially when they bring creative experiences to exciting new heights. Ladies and gentlemen, just like in the first 2 weeks, we'll be inviting Ms. Lin later in the program for an open forum. So as usual, please be ready with your questions. For our next session, we venture back into Merlion City. As many of us would notice, we can't spell heart without art. Conversely, art won't be as effective and evocative if you don't pour your heart into it. Our next speaker will remind us of the correlation of these two words. In 2016, she established 3 Pumpkins, a community cultural development agency based in Boon Lay, Singapore, under which she developed a practice that fuses creative and community-based disciplines to support the socioeconomic development of the underprivileged youth. She is also a part of the Singapore International Foundation Art for Good Fellowship, where she was awarded a research grant by her country's National Arts Council. Here to talk about inclusivity and social engagement in the artistic fields, please give a warm welcome to Ms. Lin Shiyun.
Hi everyone, my name is Shiyun. I am a creative producer and community builder based in Boon Lay. Before I begin, I'd like to thank the organizing committee of ASEAN University Network of Culture and the Arts for inviting me. I also like to thank Ms. Rosie McGowan, President of Singapore Drama Educators Association, for recommending me. I'm not an artist by any formal training. My introduction to the arts was when I was 19. I started volunteering in the theatre as a stage crew. Then I worked my way as a stage manager, production manager, and as a producer. I majored in philosophy when I was in university, and I was always very interested in what happiness means for people. While I was doing my management work for the arts, I was also giving private tuition for income stability. So I would say my living environment was always about the arts and education. So during my formative years, I was very deeply influenced by two works which I manage. Now, the first is a community theatre called SARS that was produced in 2003. It's produced by Drama Box, a Singapore theatre company, and it went around community venues in Singapore, exploring how the community perceives SARS and the relationship in the community after the outbreak. I'd like to share with you a reflection on SARS and COVID-19 by the artistic director of Drama Box, Mr. Kok Heng Luan, in the video below.
COVID-19 sort of bring me back to 2003 when we had SARS in Singapore. That was when Drama Box has just decided also to stop our full time because we were facing financial difficulties, and when SARS came up, of course, our work also got affected. However, and during that time, I remember we were still doing a community tour about ex-offenders, a foreign theatre piece. And then at the same time, we were thinking and we were watching during the SARS, there were a lot of people who didn't know how to react to it. And so we hear stories of how people would discriminate or shun the health workers or people who had the who were in quarantine. So then we decided that time as a theatre company when we didn't really have to think about our survival anymore since we're going to stop full time. We quickly went into a mode of creating a piece, a foreign theatre piece called SARS, to go around to the community and to allow to interact with people and hope that people will think more positively on how to deal with this kind of situation. Now in 2020, when we realized that I think the condition has changed quite a fair bit. I think COVID-19 is so much more serious than SARS, and with physical distancing, we can't even do any kind of theatre on the streets like what Drama Box has always been doing in response to situations.
So my experience with Drama Box and the SARS community tour left a few deep imprints on me. First is the power of the arts in connecting people. Second is that the arts is a really powerful tool to create a viewing platform for people to observe themselves. And the third is that it is a mission to bring the arts into community public spaces, which is has a very unique set of challenges in Singapore because our public spaces are very strictly governed. And the fourth is that one is able to respond to the current situation even with very little resources. And last thing is that, and this ethos kept with Drama Box until now, despite the crippling effects of COVID-19, is to care for the people. Now, the second work I like to mention is a work by Singaporean artist Zai Kuning. In his 17-year-old long journey studying the sea people of Ria Archipelago, he chanced upon a performing troupe in an island which performs the ancient Malay opera Mak Yong. So he took a long time to befriend the community and to understand their living conditions. So when he was doing that, he discovered that the troupe was performing in Bintan Arts Festival. It was also performing in tourist spots, but it wasn't performing in its own island for its own people. So there was a very real situation where the art form could go extinct. So from there, Zai invited the troupe to perform for its own people, for the children on their own island, so that the art can continue. So with this intervention that took place yearly, over a very long period of time, there was a regeneration of the art form when the younger generation took over. So I'd like to share with you a video of a performance that was invited by Zai, and that took place on a nearby island next to this performing troupe residential island, which is called Mantang Island. Inspired by the stories of the sea people, Zai eventually concluded his journey with Dapunta Hyang, Transmission of Knowledge, which he presented at Venice Biennale in 2017. So the entire journey of managing this work taught me so much about ethnography and community development work. By spending time with the community, the artist records and interprets the social structures, values, meanings, and interaction among the people. And with this observation, the artist does not merely represent what the community is, but it can make the artist can make very critical interventions that inspire the community to become what they could be. The time is of the essence in this work, but the essence here is not to hurry, because impactful and transformational work requires a long time and a great amount of commitment. When I started my own practice in 2016, I was already a mother of a 2-year-old. At that time, I was driven by an impulse to do something about providing access to the arts for children from low-income families. But I didn't want to do it in a conventional way where we invite 20 needy children to a program. I'm not art therapist as well. So instead, I wanted to really engage the children in their own natural environment so that I could understand them better, let them dictate the rules, let them decide the program, and make the joy of creativity and imagination very much a part of their daily living. I then began the project Let's Go Play Outside, where I would go to the playground at the fixed time on a fixed day of the week to play with children. The work leverages on the playground as a natural social locus to connect people, and an open environment that I could observe how the children and their families behave, understand the individual, and interpret the kind of social dynamics that guides them in their life. So let me give an example of how we do this at Let's Go Play Outside. So entry into a neighborhood often involves a disruption to the norm. So I would do it in a very simple way. I bring a big paper scroll, put it on the floor, and I offer children paint. And I give them a free rein of expression. They can draw anything they want. The only limitation here is that I will usually use 2 colors, because if you give them more colors, they will just mix everything and everything just become brown. The important thing here is to see the markings that they make. So it's not a coloring event. So once the children start making markings, we can start to observe their group dynamics and also their individual personality. And that's when we can respond. And with our response, actually, we create a space of vulnerability for ourselves, because actually then the kids are reading our response. So we become a subject of for them to observe. So for instance, in this work with this little girl, she was actually at first very scared to make any marking. So I invited her as a playful gesture. I brought her right in the middle of the paper and encouraged her to draw. So slowly she opened up and she was able to make markings more freely, because she knows that she's with an adult who does not judge her and is quite happy with anything that she make. I feel that open-mindedness is actually so rare nowadays that even up to now, when I'm in the community, that is a very unique trait of the artist, to be open-minded and non-judgmental. So this is work with a group in another location in a neighborhood called Boon Lay. So for group dynamics, when we have a painting session like that, it is a perfect situation for dialogic process, to have dialogue. So as they are talking and communicating, we are actually listening out to clues to answer questions like, what language do they speak to each other? What is the power relationship here? What are the social influences at play in this neighborhood? So in this session, I remember there were markings like the kids would say, owe money, pay money. And these are the things that they see in the neighborhood, where money lenders would come and draw on the doors and the void decks. And also a few of the naughty boys that will draw, body, private parts. So as a playful gesture, I usually would add a few lines to transform inappropriate or hostile images and language into something else. Then the children will laugh and then we keep on talking. So through this exercise, the children realized that with me, they could express very freely and we could talk about almost anything. So in that sense, then we get a very authentic communications here. So I was being asked a question, a very sensitive question, 3 times in this session. The question is, why did you ask the Malay children to play with the Chinese children? So this was not only asked by the children, but also adults in the neighborhood. When you hear a question like that, it sends a very strong message that there is some sort of divide in this neighborhood. So you keep this sort of observation in the mind, and then we think about what sort of intervention we can do later. So the subsequent intervention always come in twofold. First is to challenge the social norm that has been guiding this group. And the second is to keep on creating possibility for dialogues so that the children are able to process their thoughts and feelings. When I went back to the same neighborhood for the second session, I introduced this activity where I got the children to draw portraits of each other. So first of all, it's a very fun activity for the group to interact with each other. There's also an activity for them to look into themselves. So after they draw an outline of each other's body, I got them to do something quite different from how they would usually interact with each other. I got them to say something nice about each other and something nice about themselves. So here you have things like, Harish can make people smile, Harish can make people happy. So this is a friend of Harish who said that. And Harish himself said that, I am kind. So this is a kind of, it's a very unusual thing for the children, and they were really enjoying it because in our first session with the kids, I realized that they were very rude to each other. There was a lot of insults and teasing. So this activities actually challenge that normal behavior. So after they have done with this, they started to fill up the portraits with paint. So you can see here it's a very collaborative process where they would help each other fill up the portraits. So while everything seems to be going on perfectly, then something completely off tangent happened. Another youth came into this space and punched another youth. This is a slightly older boy, he's 13-year-old. So to escalate the situation, I quickly removed the younger children because younger children tend to join a fight without knowing what's happening. So later on, I found out that actually this attacker was a good friend of the youth. And he was very provoked by this activity because he thought that his friend was too nice. He was so nice that he was being used by other people. He was so nice that he allowed his mother to leave him. And then we realized that actually his mother left the family a week before this activity. So then the youth was very upset. He broke down, he was crying, and he left and went back home. So the rest of the children stayed behind and they were feeling really bad for the boy. So they decided that they had to help him complete the portrait. It's the one on the left, I believe, so that they could finish it and bring it back to his house. So yeah, they completed it, brought it back to the house, and the boy was very, very surprised. So this activity actually taught me about the work of community building. So unlike working in the studio where we have a so-called safe space and bringing participants into the classroom or into the studio, working in the field, working in the open environment, actually poses a lot of risk and vulnerability. But it is the improvisational nature and the kind of unexpectedness that really excite me a lot in this work, and that which makes it really impactful because it is very much part of the living for the children. So from here, I started to think about community building work as a very integral part of arts engagement. Building the community helps the individual to heal. And from there, I started to think a lot about community and cultural development work, and especially to make public spaces safe spaces so that we can change a culture, a living culture for the children and youth living in more challenging environments. So here I will share a video of a giant puppet performance that we have created after I gained more understanding about the public space and living environment of people. The mission of Three Pumpkins gained more clarity in about 2 years since I started com engagement. So it was to connect people through the arts. So with this clarity in mission, we were in a better position to measure the social impact of the work. So after being acquainted with playground spaces, which didn't quite allow the more permanent setup and the kind of in-depth and frequent engagement that I like to have with the people, I was interested in create more permanent space for the benefit of the children and youth who really needed someone to journey with them daily, because that's not the support they can get from their family and even from the school. A space where children could always go to and build a sense of belonging. And yeah, it is a kind of community art space that does not exist in Singapore, because the way that policy is being shaped in Singapore is that art spaces are not in the residential area. They're always in the city center, far away from living spaces. So I started to look into commercial spaces in the neighborhood, and very fortunately, we were able to find a business owner in Lengkok Bahru who was quite happy to share his space with us. So over here is a shop space that is meant to sell fruits, like king of fruits, as you can see. And we were able to get the business owner to share the space with us. And on the right, you see there is the vinyl sticker of artist Isabel Diju. So we turned half of the shop space into a pinhole photography lab, where Isabel could create works with the children in the neighborhood. And there you see Isabel working with children at the local coffee shop, and their work was eventually exhibited at the fence of a street football court that was not in use anymore. So the experience in Lengkok Bahru gave me a lot of confidence about setting up a community arts lab in the neighborhood and the kind of benefit it can bring for the children. So I then took up a very small space in another neighborhood, which is very close to where I live, so that I could go there every day. This space is called Tatakut Kids Club, or short form TTKC, and I set this up in 2019. Tatakut basically means don't be afraid in Malay. The hope is to set up a space that will break the culture of misunderstanding, fear, intimidation, and transform it into one that is very open-minded, happy, and warm for the children to grow up in. So after 2 years of experimentation, which is supported by members of the public and volunteers, we are then connected with about 80 families in the neighborhood. So 2 years later, the Ministry of Culture, Community and Youth, as well as the Ministry of Social and Family Development, recognize the impact of art space social practice and its impact in bringing together people, building stronger community ties, and self-development for the children and youth. Emotional support for the families. The work also directly assists the social workers as well as educators in their school for children who can be quite difficult to engage at home and also in school. So very thankfully, Three Pumpkins has been awarded a 3-year full operational funding by the ministry to hire a team of 4 full-time staff. So the work is actually really to bring in people to spend time on the ground with the children, understand them, and create meaningful intervention and program that responds to their need, rather than something that we imagine by sitting in the office or studying statistic and data. So it's a bit difficult to explain what we actually really do in TTKC in words. So here I'd like to show you a video.
1, 2, 3, 4. Take me along on a roller coaster ride through the neighborhood. You and me running through the meandering void decks and gardens. say hello to the ice cream.
Thank you, Miss Lynn. And you reminded us how crucial it is to pour our hearts into the creative process. One thing is for sure, art is indeed crucial in fostering our sense of community. See you later in the open forum. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have questions to ask Miss Lin Shiyun, you may type them into the chat box later in the program. We will meet our last speaker in a few minutes. But before then, let's meet today's guest performers, all three of whom hail from Filipino universities. Our first performing group was formed in 1998 by Ms. Elenita E. Cruz to explore music, dance, and theater as an effective means to promote Filipino culture. Composed of young performers, they are dedicated in pursuing mastery of different dance genres, such as folk, jazz, street, and other alternative contemporary forms. Their performance today is a tribute to their home city of Marikina, a model and vibrant city which gives pride to its cultural identity, honoring the past and recognizing the present diverse culture brought about by migrants who came from different regions and made Marikina their permanent home. Performing a piece choreographed by Mr. Ronnie Mirabuena in 2019 and now restaged by Mr. Nicole Clavel and Ms. Riza Erica Cruz, we have the Marikina Dance Guild together with the Pamantasan ng Lungsod ng Marikina Dance Troupe. Our second performance was inspired by Manila's commute life in the 1920s. It is a rendition of a piece written by poet Jose Corazon de Jesus with music by Sonder Choi. This performance earned their school victory at the mixed category round of the recently held 3rd BCS World Virtual Choir Festival. Currently under the baton of Ana Abeleda Piquero, the choir pursues excellence in performing and developing a varied, progressive repertoire of sacred and secular music. As challenges emerged due to the new normal brought about by the pandemic, they strive to conquer these with an art that empowers strength, movement, and passion. Celebrating their 25th anniversary this year, we have the University of Asia and the Pacific Chorale performing Ang Tren. For our last performance, a classical Mozart piece is given a local ethnic spin by arranger Norberto Cads for the 2018 concert entitled Musical Evolution. The group we're about to see was first formed in 1966 by President Nicanor Reyes Jr. with the help of Mr. Victor Toledo. And as their name will clearly suggest, they specialize in a variety of instruments made of indigenous organic materials. To be more specific, bamboo. Their recent incarnation was formed in 2007, now taking on a more straightforward moniker. Performing Turkish March, we have the FEU Bamboo Band.
Sagang perlas ng silanganan. Buhay ang siyang kapalit sa kalayaang nakamit. Pag-ibig ko sa'yo'y di na mawawagi.
Kalayaan mo'y aming kayamanan, mula ngayon at magpakailanman.
kalatok at katutubo ay nandito.
Pilipinas, Pilipinas, ang bayan ko. Pagmamalaki ko sa buong mundo.
Di kita pababayaan.
Lagi kang pag-ipunan.
Ipagtatanggol sa mga makapit.
Paglalaan, Pilipinas, ang bayan ko. Pagmamalaki ko sa buong mundo. Mabuhay ka, mabuhay ka, mabuhay ka.
Nakabalabala sa daan. Kung gabi masalubong, ang mata ay nakaapoy, ang silbato sa malayo'y dinig. Dinig mo pang sumisipol, dinig mo pang sumisipol, sumisipol, sipol, 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 sumisipat, humuni-huni, humuni ang pitada. Tumetelenteng, 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 tumetelenteng ang kanya-kanya kaimpanada sa tuwina. Buena
That was indeed an invigorating and vibrant mix of performances. Thank you to the Marikina Dance Guild, the PLMAR Dance Troupe, and the UANP Chorale, and the FEU Bamboo Band. Well, this is it. It's time to meet our final speaker for this series of learning sessions. It goes without saying that one of the greatest casualties of quarantine is the event scene. The ongoing challenge now is how to bring the physical event experience to virtual platforms while preserving the impact. Having gone through that firsthand experience himself, our last speaker is more than qualified to talk about the process. He is renowned for revolutionizing the art scene in his side of Malaysia as the director of Georgetown Festival, a prestigious Penang-based arts event that has since grown in popularity across Southeast Asia. The festival has since paved the way for him to establish his own branding and consultancy company, which, apart from continuously mounting the festival, has also forged partnerships with several brands and organizes various exhibits and shows. Here to talk to us about managing online events and collaborations is the founder of Joe Sidek Productions and the current president of an international network of art impresarios, the Federation for Asian Cultural Promotion. Friends, let's welcome Mr. Joe Sidek.
Hi, good day, mabuhay. My name is Joe Sidek. I'm from Georgetown, Penang, Malaysia. Firstly, I'd like to thank ASEAN University Network for inviting me today to speak on managing online festivals and collaborations. Let me share a little bit about my background. Okay, almost working it out, just 1 second. Here we are. I am the current chairman for the Federation for Asian Cultural Promotion, and I'm also an industry advisor for Cendana, which is the Cultural Economy Development Agency of Malaysia. And in November last year, I was elected chairman of the Penang Arts Council. In 2008, I was invited to work on a festival by the Chief Minister of Penang. And for 9 years, I ran a festival called the Georgetown Festival, which focused a lot on placemaking, storytelling, and branding Penang, Georgetown as part of the global network of festivals. And then 2017, 2019, I worked on a festival in East Malaysia, the state of Sarawak, where it was called the Rainforest Fringe. And it was a strong narrative on the indigenous and nature elements of Sarawak. 2014 and 15, I managed to get a franchise of a short film festival out of Australia called Tropfest, and I called it Tropfest Southeast Asia, and we had very strong representations from Philippines actually, and it's a personal journey for me to want to connect Southeast Asia. So possibly working with ASEAN University Network in the future is something I really look forward to. And my best memories were visiting Cinemalaya in CCP. And I thought it was really, really amazing that Filipinos or young Filipinos were watching indie films in their own language. And it was very, very, for me, a game-changing moment where I realized that you have to have your own stories and your own narratives. And I was very impressed by Cinemalaya. And then in 2019, I was asked by the Minister of Finance to work on a festival that involved technology in the arts, and I called it Putrajaya, which is in the capital city of Malaysia. The government seat is in Putrajaya. It was called Putrajaya Lift, which is Living in Future Times. I now like to share a video of Georgetown Festival so that you can see how important it was to bring the message that it's all about people and places. Enjoy the video. Then 2020 came and changed the world. Festivals were either postponed or went hybrid all over the world. And we all stopped to think, rethink, reimagine, rework. And this has affected all festivals all around the world. And in Asia, the worst hits were the music festivals. Java Jazz, Wonderfruit had to be postponed. And until even this year, I mean, I was just trying to check programs, and I think a lot of people are still uncertain about whether there is permission to go on live performances. The shutdown of Broadway, West End shows, even Cirque du Soleil was not spared. And back closer to home, Singapore. Singapore is a great example of what's just happened. In May, mid-May till the end of May, they had SIFA International Festival that was postponed. And they had an amazing array of programs, both live, hybrid, and although the seating capacities of theaters were cut back, and I'm told that everybody had to do COVID tests before they were allowed in the theaters. And I think there were some government subsidies that played a very strong part. But Singapore it's a festival that's strongly supported by the government, and shows that had strong elements on both local and international, and a great example of adapting to the current situation. Over 60 shows were shown and over 300 performances, and the good government support of having SIFA on demand, which puts a lot of the show online. And we're still looking at figures to see how successful that was, to have a festival that was hybrid. And there were very interesting shows, from dance to theater to music, from all over the world, and major local productions. And one of the most interesting things was to have three of the strongest theater companies in Singapore working on the opening show, which was the commission on the success of a film. The success of a film called The Pitch, which put together Gaurav Kipriani, who is the festival director, and also the director of Singapore Rep, Adrian Pang of Pandemonium, and Ivan Heng of Wild Rice. Last year, they had a short film called The Pitch, which was very, very successful, and it was an online. And I think they gauged that, and I think this year they brought together and put on a new work called The Commission, and they put it on in one of the theaters in Singapore. And someone that you might want to watch of success, a benchmark of success, which I think in Southeast Asia, is Wild Rice, Ivan Heng's theater company in Singapore. It is 20 years old. And last year, when they had Wild on Demand, well, everybody was rushing to put on shows online, and you are competing against Sadler's Wells, New York Met, National Ballet, where everybody was given free shows. Even there were Broadway shows that were put online. They put on Wild online, Wild on Demand. And it was very successful because they had over 400,000 views, and 65% was Singaporeans and 35% was from the rest of the world. And I put the success to the fact that Ivan and Wild Rice has been really, really good at brand building and building brand loyalty, so that when they do put something online, it is watched and people paid, or people want to give or donate. So when the rest of the world was just putting things online to do what everyone else is doing, there must be a stronger strategy, because how do you compete with an online audience where everyone is charging or some are given free and you don't have a very strong brand loyalty? So that's what happened in Singapore. Closer to home, Malaysia. Malaysia had something called Gerak Angin, which brought together some of the biggest performing arts group in Malaysia. It was built as the first virtual festival last year in September. And we had a very strong performing arts group that was performing. And with the figures were encouraging, but still the question is, how do you monetize an online festival? You can get a lot of eyeballs, but how do you monetize huge costs of production? And I'll speak about that a bit later. And we finished this year with our first, they call themselves Cloud, which is a festival, online festival that focuses on music, film, and comedy. They were charging ticket prices, and I'm not 100% sure of the returns of this. I am still trying to get the figures of how successful an online festival in Malaysia is, because it's not difficult to put something online, but how do you monetize it? How do you charge? And especially if your brand name is not so good or you don't have brand loyalty. So as I was talking about keeping the brand alive, closer to home, I kept two of my staff. And at that time, I think all of us around the world was thinking, like, what do we do? Travel restrictions from all over the world, and also interstate travel was restricted. In Malaysia, at least, we were on and off the movement control order. At the moment, we're still on a tight movement control order. There's been a restricted movement control order, and nobody's for sure what is going to happen. So it's very hard to plan for producers of events or festivals to plan beyond something small, something local. So what we did was, we did this program called Uncut, Live from the Blue Room, because as a small company, I wanted to keep our presence online live. So we invited everyone that worked with us in Georgetown Festival to come and speak and share the experience, their fears, and the ideas of how to inspire people from all over the world, especially Malaysians who were scared, who didn't know what to do, especially students. Students, like all the university students, were not sure of the career path that they've taken, especially if you've taken a path in events, management, or in performing arts. You really don't know with all these stops in classes and all that. It's something that everybody needed to be reassured that you are in the right courses. So what happened was, we invited big names like Sidi Labi Chikawi from Belgium, who's worked on a film called The Girl, who's worked with Beyonce on a big production from the Music Awards. And then we have Tan Keng Hua, the Singaporean actress, who was in Crazy Rich Asians. And from Philippines, we had Mark Carpio, who was talking for the Madrigal Singers that we've had twice here in Penang. And then we also had a big ASEAN name, Ritipan, who's the producer of Angelina Jolie's movie, and who himself have won a Cannes Film Festival Award. And then under the Arts Council of Penang, we started working on a hybrid program, because that was in April, because we were still restricted to only interstate travel, and the audiences had to be mostly locals. So the Penang Arts Council pulled together over 200 performers and about 40 programs that we put out during the weekend. It was called O Penang, a weekend in Penang. And it was myself trying out how to put out programs both online and live. And it's a study. It's an ongoing learning experience for all of us, even me, with 9 years of understanding, working on festivals. It had to be back to square one. I needed to understand how to gauge eyeballs, how to get people interested, what were the kind of programs that will interest people. And it became a good study for me in April, when we launched this program that had all sorts of everything. We had from cake making to dance, to traditional music, to treasure rides, to book reading, to dance, to exhibitions. We even did 2 music videos, and we put it all online, and we had to gauge what were the eyeballs. And that was the first starting point of getting eyeballs. And then the next step is to study how do you monetize it? Because at the end of the day, if you're running a festival or doing a program, somebody's got to pay for it. And to pay for it, you need to have income. And that's, I think, what's been struggling with the industry about. It's not so much putting something online, it's getting the eyeballs and the story that you're telling. And the next stage is, how do you monetize putting it online? Do online festivals work? I think we need to look at the word festivals and how traditional festivals worked. It was always where people gathered around to share joy, rituals, and that's how festivals used to work and still work nowadays. When you have a festival, it means a congregation of people in a series of events at a special place or a designated place or city. So festivals had to go online. There was no choice. There was a choice that in order for us to survive, because there was travel restrictions, both international and local interstate travels, especially in Malaysia, you had to put it online. It was the only way for you to get past getting more than your own eyeballs in your own individual small areas, village, cities, or state. And so it wasn't a problem about going online. It was a bit of a costly affair because you need to understand the technical side of putting online, the type of platforms that you need to share online. And it obviously guarantees you a wider reach because more people will get to know who you are across your borders because they don't need to be physically present to be able to see the shows that you put on. And like I said, when we did the O Penang thing, we reached an audience beyond Penang, beyond Georgetown, beyond Malaysia even. The wider reach means you get better eyeballs. But again, the question would be, how do you monetize this festival? You know, people will watch it. And also, how do you keep an audience? Because out there, there's so many things going on, so many online Zoom meetings, Zoom showcases, Zoom conferences, and people are, there's a little bit of an online fatigue, I think, even for myself. I think we've had so much Zoom meetings that the only thing that I could watch that would take my attention really is comedy. I can watch comedy and I can switch off and start again, whereas I cannot watch a play or a dance with a stop, watch again. So it's important to be able to curate and program things that could work. And it's very difficult to put productions online because the traditional productions that we do, say for instance, for a theater show, would mean that you would just have a one camera recording the whole thing. And you're fighting off films, which has 16 cameras, which has months of shoot, and they take different angles and editing and all that. So with live theater, you cannot edit. So there again, I think the limitations of filming or streaming live for online productions. But what is really good about being stuck in this COVID period is that you really get connected globally. I myself personally, I was invited to speak in a conference in Africa, which I never knew the extent of cultural showcases, the depth of culture, traditional and contemporary all over Africa. And recently I was invited to speak at CINAS in Canada, something that I've wanted to be participating in for the longest period, but never got around to it. And this is the best opportunity to connect globally. And even me now with ASEAN University Network. Yes, it would be great to be in a physical space, meeting all of you, being present and sharing. But it also gives you a chance to be connected to a lot of everybody around the world. I've spent the last 2 years building new international connections, working on ideas so that in time when the doors open, you are ready, going online. It's whether it's a festival or a production, some of the serious considerations for going online is the cost of producing. And this is something that I've learned that, you know, it costs you a lot more money to put something online than to put it just live, you know, because you've got to do the whole show, do the whole project, the whole product and film it. So a whole different set of skill sets of the people, different sets of workforce that you need apart from the shows. You need filmmakers, editors, sound people. So the cost of producing is one of the factors that it's very important in putting something online. The other thing is the online audiences that we have and the attention span. Like I said earlier, I think for me personally, comedy is the only thing that I've been able to watch online that I can watch and switch off on my mobile and switch on again. I have watched theater productions. I've watched full-scale opera online, but it is a different feel. when you watch something online. So for me, it's important to go online now because that's the only thing that we can do for the moment because of the travel restrictions, interstate, international. Like I think most of the festivals in Australia have all been local festivals because there's still no interstate travel. And I don't think they've been focusing strongly in online because they have enough local audiences. So I think if you have enough local audiences, you could survive. And it's a great time now to study and use technology in your scope of work. The cost and monetization, as I mentioned earlier, it's very, very difficult because I remember when the COVID first started in March, April, May, everybody was rushing online. Malaysian producers were putting things online and some were trying to charge. But why would you pay when at that time, New York Metropolitan Opera was giving away free shows, Sadler's Wells was giving free shows. So that's why I studied Wild Rice, and I felt of all the Southeast Asian companies that I saw, they were cleverest at monetizing because they built on their brand. They managed to have press this button if you would like to donate, and I'm quite sure they had a lot of people paying or giving money because of the support. Like I said, when they had a gala ball, people were giving 1,000 Sing, 10,000 Sing, and 20,000 Sing. So the cost of production of producing a play, a show, a showcase, or putting a festival together is very expensive. And I think it is something that we should look into because it's something that's here to stay. And I give you a good example, like football. If you look at football, there's a stadium of 80,000 people. And traditionally, football was just go to the stadium, watch the football, and 80,000 people would pay for the tickets. But now, if you look at football and you look at F1 races and you look at concerts, they have managed to have home online audience. Although physically, obviously, there's a first choice. People like to be surrounded by the energy of a show or energy of a festival, energy of a football match. But technology and the way they have constructed how to sell a football match to a home audience, that you get a lot of on-demand live shows. So I think the use of technology, of an online possibility to reach a bigger audience. So like I said, the example of football match, 80,000 people pay to see your match, but syndicated shows make you a lot more money. So I think it's an important thing to study how we can build an online audience as we grow our festival brand or festival content. The idea is attention and packaging. How do you package? How do you sell your narratives and your story? And why would people appreciate your show? And the aesthetic or the thumping energy of a match or a score or American Idol. So I think it's no longer just the live shows that work. It's also an online presence, an online audience can be monetized. A good example is American Idol. Nobody, maybe 2,000 people are sitting in the hall, but 60 million people vote. So I think that's something that we have to learn about how we use the online technology to grow as opposed to be dependent on it. I think it's a very strong factor that we can factor in how we grow our industry. And I'd like to, before I end, share a few thoughts that I have. And everybody thinks that this too shall pass. And a great example is the Black Death, the plague, where everybody, over 200 million people died. And what saved it was almost 2 years later, became the Renaissance. So I believe that it was the creative that brought this darkness out of this glum period of, for now, COVID. It was the Botticellis, the Michelangelos, the Leonardos that actually were the energies that changed, that brought a new form of energy to what was happening in the world. And then again, another example more in recent times was the Spanish flu that took 2 years, and the estimated death was up to 100 million people that died. Again, what came immediately were the positive creative energy of the Roaring Twenties, films and music that brought people to change. Now, I'd like to share something that comes to my mind all the time from something that Darwin spoke about. It is not the strongest species that survives, nor the most intelligent that survives. It is the most adaptable to change. And I think this is something that we will have to hold on and to know that we have to adapt, we have to change. We need to rethink, rework, reimagine. And I think the time is now, and something that's very important for university students is to make good while you are at universities. I can't stop saying this enough, because while you're at universities, you're surrounded by lecturers, tutors, people who could help you. Your resources are plentiful because your access to resources is different from when you go out there and you're on your own and you don't have resources. And the networks that you have while at universities, take for example, the ASEAN Universities Network. I believe there's over 200 universities. That's a lot of numbers of eyeballs. If everybody bought in, became a part of the we, and I've always said this, it's not about you or me, it's about the power of we. And now this is the time where the universities can collaborate, can join hands and join forces, and you have the numbers. And I think it's very important to have the universities as an important jigsaw piece in any festivals. My only regret is while I was running a festival in Georgetown, I didn't have the opportunity to work closely with universities. Whereas now I'm hoping to work with MACOM, which is the Malaysian version of Universities Network. I've also reached out to several Malaysian universities because the kind of young talent that you all have there, the kind of young energy, new ways of thinking, and the access to material, access to resources, access to universities' professors, access to research. It's a really, really important component for festivals to move forward. I'd like to thank again ASEAN Universities Network for allowing me to share my thoughts and my experience with you all. And I wish you all the best and believe in the positive energy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Joe Sidek. We certainly learned a lot about preserving the event experience, regardless of venue and platform. Ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the most anticipated and most interactive part of the session. We've heard from all three speakers, and now it's time to hear from you. At this point, we'd like to ask today's speakers, Ms. Lin Yau, Ms. Lin Shiyun, and Mr. Joe Sidek, to please turn on their cameras as we commence with our forum. Are they here now? Okay, so I hope you're ready with your questions. This morning we had very interesting inputs from 3 countries, from Hong Kong, from Malaysia, and Singapore, 3 different organizations on how they adapted, how they dealt with the new normal. So I think we already have one question here, and it's for all of the resource persons, for all of our speakers. The question is from Mr. Alvaro Joaquino Jr. of the Dalubhasaan ng Lungsod ng San Pablo. What are the factors that spell the difference between the response of governments to arts and cultural movements between a developed nation from a developing country? And it's clear to me now that during the 4-day sessions, Singapore, UK, and others have more investments on the arts and cultural preservations even before the pandemic challenged the world. And that is why adjustments are no longer very difficult for art and cultural workers of these countries. So the question is, what factors would spell the difference between government, arts and cultural movements between a developed nation from a developing country? So who would like to go first from among our distinguished speakers? I think Mr. Joe Sidek is ready to answer now.
Okay, I'll give it a shot. I think everyone always complains about their own country, but you know, in the world over, I think only possibly France and currently Germany have a government or ministry that really, really supports the arts genuinely. Singapore too. I wouldn't leave Singapore out. So even in Malaysia, so you do it as best as you can. But in Malaysia, certainly these last 2 years, the government has stepped up. Ministry of Finance, there's a Malaysian government body called My Creative Ventures, and Cendana, who I sit on, they've rolled out grants, survival grants, creative grants, to just keep the industry afloat. So I'm not, as far as surviving, they've actually rolled out a lot of funding for all the genres of the arts, performing, visuals, creating new works, and also they even pay for rentals and staff this last 2 years. So it's not been too bad for Malaysia, and I'm really proud of that. But obviously, we envy Singapore with the government help. And I hear Taiwan also, the government supports down to even buying tickets for the shows.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Joe Sidek. And let's hear from Shiyun.
Yes, yeah, from Singapore. Yes, there's a lot of money put in it. I would say that when there's a lot of money put in it, the danger is that you lose yourself, because because every money that comes in has an objective. So the government wants you to move in a certain way. That's why they give the money to you. From my case is that I was actually, we developed a digital platform last year. This is really more for the seniors. It was not, we didn't apply for any grant, but we highlight a certain needs. The seniors has no IT access, so we developed a different kind of radio platform for them. And then that went through a process for the government to understand this need and give the money to this. So we actually did not respond to the government grant, which was quickly go digital and develop something, go digital. We were also offered, actually the 3-year funding was for a digital platform. And I could have quickly changed my work because I want that money, $1 million for the next 3 years. But then I told the ministry, no, we have a very important work. We have this community, we have to take care of them. So that took another 1 year to negotiate before we get this 3-year funding. So I would say that yes, money is there, but with money, there's a different set of problems. Yeah.
Thank you, Miss Shiyun from Singapore. And then let's hear from Miss Lin because we have 2 Lins here. So the first Lin is, I would refer to as Miss Lin, and the second Lin is Miss Shiyun. So Miss Lin from Hong Kong.
Thank you for this question. I think those of us in the arts would agree that we never have enough money, COVID or no COVID. This is the first fact. Let's admit it. But let me go back in time a bit. Those of you who are interested in history, you will remember that just after the Great Depression in the 1920s, America actually rolled out a New Deal plan in the 1930s. And a lot of the help and support given by the American government then was really towards artists. So they funded artists to create a lot of work in terms of giving work to artists. But I think more importantly, and all of us here today, I think should remember one thing, that when the going gets tough, the arts are even more important. In this COVID times, when I only see a flat Joe and a flat Lin Shiyun and a flat Miss Palace, we have to be reminded of our joint humanity. And that's why I keep on saying that it's really during pandemic times that all governments should pay more attention, financially, of course, to the arts. Because I know health is important, economy is important, but we do not want things to get to a stage in which we're fighting for resources. We have to, remember that we have to work together. In terms of Hong Kong, our general government arts budget per year is really not small. But in terms of the arts, the Hong Kong government did set up an arts and culture sector subsidy scheme since last year, and it's to the tune of around $20 million, which can be a lot, which can be very little. It depends on how you use it. I think the danger always, as Shiyun says, is to just spend without thinking. not only of your organization's survival, but how the arts community in a particular city or a particular country can contribute as a collective. So aside from the public purse, there have also been huge philanthropic organizations, and huge by our standards at least, opening their purses, the Hong Kong Jockey Club Charitable Trust being the largest, and they've set up Arts Go Digital, they've set up various things as well. But small foundations, we have benefited from. So we've benefited from rent subsidy from the Lee Hyson Foundation. Of course, we've benefited from the government as well. Our organization last year was given a total of about $40,000, and we could, for once, spend it however we wanted to and not be really restrained by government. So I really think, yes, even in the best of times, how important do governments think artists and the arts are? I think this is the first question that all of us in the arts must always remember, because we have to advocate for the arts. So much so that during troubled times, they will remember us, not just an addendum to their medical bills and the economic bills, but as the people who look at the qualitative side of life.
Thank you very much. I got two very important points there, that funding will always not be enough, pandemic or no pandemic. And it's a matter of really prioritizing and thinking out how the funds will be used. And another thing is that when the going gets tough, the arts even become more important. I think that is something that we share among all of the arts managers. Also, there's one important point there, that there should be a meeting of objectives between your organization and the government to really say that a government response is adequate and it is responding to the needs of the arts organization. Okay, we have another question.
I can't hear you, Rika?
Frozen, right?
Yeah.
Shall we sing the Frozen song?
Shiyun, I really like your point about giving money is not also the right answers. No? Even in Malaysia, handing out money is not always the right answer. Obviously, the arts need funding, but being too reliant on grants and not changing, not growing, it's a weakness especially in my country.
Yeah, all money, big money especially, comes with something, right?
Lots of strings attached, which one can understand.
Glory, Jill, I think we've lost the host. So we were just talking. I'll just pick on Shiyun's point about funding.
Yes,
maybe.
please. I'm picking up from Rika.
The idea of giving out grants, one has to relook at, if you get the grants, are you growing or are you just stagnant? I am sitting in a panel that gives out grants, and I question, like, why are we giving grants to organizations that they just want to do the same old thing for the last 20 years and not growing, not getting new audiences? And as Lin Yau put out, that getting money means your hands are shackled. You have to do what the governments or your sponsors want. So the censorship, the freedom of the arts can be curtailed. So it is a fine balance between taking money and actually, now with really, really stretched resources, we need to use the best use for the funds that we have, as opposed to just taking the funds and everybody gets the funds.
All right. Okay.
Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. All right. Do I need to repeat the question?
Yes, I think we lost you. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. So the question is from Mr. Randy Nobleza of Marinduque State College. What major change in audience reception did you experience as we entered the pandemic? And what would be an ideal audience development program for a better normal?
Okay, I'll start first since I'm the oldest.
Yes, Mr. Joe.
There is a change because even in Malaysia, where we are all trying for an online audience and we're competing with everyone around the world, there will be changes. But there's also the danger that when the doors open, everybody rushes out to go back into the halls and go back to large groups, which is going to be quite dangerous. So I'm very cautious about how we take it one step at a time, as opposed to rushing in. So I think we need to study safety protocols, especially for theaters. I think in Malaysia, that's the worst hit, because even if you have the best shows, not necessarily people are brave enough to go in, because the concert goers are, okay, I'm going to go see a concert regardless. But theater has a refined audience to be in a room. I think that's the difficult and sensitive part about closed performance in closed spaces, as opposed to large crowds.
Well, we actually deal with around 15,000 young people a year face-to-face pre-COVID. And since the scramble to get on Zoom, I mean, we've all had to make contingency plans. There have been two schools of thought. Mainly, 60–70% said, I don't want another Zoom. We want live theater. The whole point about arts, the arts, is live theater, live music, live dance. We understand that very well. The tension is that all the rules and regulations from the Education Bureau or from wherever, including social distancing capacity, means that you always have a struggle. We are currently at allowed 75% capacity and seating 4x4 and then, you know, different rows and things like that. I don't think there is an answer ever, and context will matter from city to city. We are now planning for, today, ask me next week, it might be different. We're now planning for 70% DigiAfTech and 30% live. You can't lose your live audience. You have to have them. The 70% is comparatively easy. We are really progressing in sorting this out. It's the 30% live that I can't get a handle on. And if anyone can, please help me. Where do you go? What do you do? And when you get out into parks, there's another government department you need to deal with, and another one, and another one, and another one. So I have no idea. Please help if you can. The audience will have to change, and we're finding audience reception very challenging because, look, when we were only our little selves in our little theater, people knew who we are. They would come to our theater. We were only competing with like-minded, friendly competitors in Hong Kong. All of a sudden, we're online. It's everybody else trying to get an eyeball. I'm sure it'll be very difficult to even get 3 eyelashes in. So let's see.
So you're always faced with surprises, Miss Lynn, huh? So that's why you were saying it's useless to plan for 3 years or 5 years now. We always need to be on our toes in terms of looking for opportunities amidst this crisis. Let's hear from Ms. Shiyun.
Yeah, in Singapore, there's always there's a phase 2 restriction, there's a phase 3 restriction, there's a heightened phase 2 restriction. So every different mode, you can have 3 people, 5 people, 8 people, we don't know, right? So we kind of like, we have like, there's 3 modes basically. There's like completely, we can't see each other. We can see each other, maybe in groups of 8, maybe in groups of 20, or we have a hybrid. So we are kind of prepared for different situations. Yeah. But yeah, I think the thing is, we never know. Yeah, ask me again next week. Maybe it's a different answer.
Just like in the Philippines, we have this spectrum of quarantines, and with each kind of quarantine goes with a host of restrictions depending on the place, on the site. Okay, thank you for responding to that question. Another from Mr. Joel Parcon of the University of Asia and Pacific. First of all, thank you for the great insights on the importance of the arts and community development. My question is, given that interaction and open conversation is very important in disrupting the status quo in the community, what advice can you give for how community development initiatives can adapt to the restrictions on proximity and face-to-face interaction. Yeah, Ms. Shiyun.
Yes. I think the first thing is that there are still many people who go on living their life, going out to work. There are also children playing out there that we cannot engage online. And community actually still exists in the real life, right? Even though we are in our house. So I think if possible is to still go on the ground and observe what's happening on the ground. I mean, it's all a new norm. We don't know what's happening. And I think the most important thing is to understand what's happening. Then you know what is the mode of operation. Then maybe we can suggest something that helps. And for me, when we couldn't really go out and engage a lot, I was actually studying studying the social service, how the social service agency, how the NGOs are operating, how are they communicating with the people. Because they are, and what is the mode of help also? What is a mode of charity? So there's a lot of food aid going on. There's a lot of focus on food. There's a lot of focus on giving. And from there, then I realized that, oh, there's too much resources. What are the problems that come from there? Maybe there's actually not enough care for the social, emotional side of things. And from there, then we can have conversations with the social service agency, government agency on what they have not noticed. And that, I think the artists going to the community, we see very different things. And that's where we can disrupt the norm in that sense. Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Shiyun. So artists cannot simply stay watching inside their studios. We have to go out, observe, and do some kind of engaged research and collaborations with other stakeholders. Thank you, Ms. Shiyun.
And dialogue. Yeah, I think we are very good at dialogue, facilitating dialogues, which other sectors may not have these skills. Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Sidek, would you like to say?
I'll just jump in because I like what Shiyun said. I think the pandemic has taught us to be human. We start to think, and the idea of mental health, mental well-being, and the safety of the people around us. And it also shows you that sometimes being big is also very difficult because you have overheads and all that. So it's the smaller units that are able to survive and adapt. So it's not necessarily big organizations. They're the ones that crumble first because the overheads are high and all that. So I think it's about adapting. It's about understanding, continuously understanding the ever-changing goalposts daily, as Lynn said, 3 eyelashes maybe tomorrow, I like that because at the end of the day, it's about understanding what's happening around us and being responsible also, because we are agents of producers or spaces. You have to be responsible. I mean, everybody's pushing me to have something that I've got the budget for, but I said, no, we have to hold on. We have to be very, very careful because I don't want to take the responsibility of people falling sick. Although as much as I like it to go live, I want to do it now. I think we also should be responsible for not just pushing buttons because everybody's so frustrated. You have to be really, really careful. You are a part of this big picture that everybody has to take precautions. I think being ready is important. So use this time wisely, adapt, get ready so that when things are better, you're ready to roll.
If I may add, a large number of our beneficiaries and participants are from very grassroots families. So I was particularly interested in what Shiyun was saying. And funnily enough, although a lot of us moan about Zoom, when we had to change a lot of classes online, some young people really blossomed. This is because while they were in the classroom, there were too many social and emotional factors that they had to deal with 30 other kids in the classroom, especially if you're introverted or you might have special needs. And we suddenly found that online, because they were in their own space, no matter how small, they suddenly had a safe space to work with the arts, whatever it is. I mean, we are a theatre company, but we also do music, we also do visual arts. It's the whole, what do you call it? The whole supermarket full of it. And we saw that because of this, and their parents had to work, they had time to themselves. And therefore, over time, they really changed. Of course, the reverse was also true. Those who are extroverted and great socialites didn't like being in their flats. You all will know, of course, that our living accommodations are very, very small in Hong Kong. And I have a lot of young people from 6 to 16 living with family members of 5 to 7 in 100 square foot and no more. And I mean 100 square foot. Their bed is the dining table, is their homework table. And when you have 3 young people in there all being homeschooled, can you imagine what it's like? So well-being is a very strong platform through the arts. And this is what also why Shiyun's work, and I'm sure a lot of our audience today would need to do. I think if the arts can't get enough funding from purely the art side, we have to look at other extrinsic property of the arts, because only through engaging in cross-sector needs will people see how important the arts are. So we work with social workers for the last 3 years. For the last 9 years, we've actually worked in a faculty of medicine teaching undergraduates on empathy, etc. So through drama, music, and movement as well. So we need to spread our fingers to get into more funding pies, and then hopefully the whole sector will grow a bit.
Thank you, Ms. Lin. We have another question from Mr. Alvaro Gioquino, again from Dalubhasaan ng Luzon ng San Pablo. For Sergio, the question is for Sergio, how much would it cost for the software program or technical cost for the online monetization efforts to cover cost of production and hopefully make some profits?
Wow, that's a difficult question. I'll just share an example of the music industry and Spotify, right? One of the greatest complaints about individual musicians from local countries is that you're dwarfed in a sea of big global names. So I think the best way to attempt this is to see what's around you at your university or people around you who can help you with the tech side and how to create platforms the simple way. I think even Facebook has it. Facebook Live and Cloud Theater has introduced online. Go online, do research, find out what is the best medium, who's out there that can help your project, your product. There's a few out there. Cloud Data has come out recently and everybody's using that, but it's not so much the platform. You must really look at whether what you're putting out there would get support. So it's really about content and the emotional feel of how people want to give because they like you or they like what you're doing, like what Shiyun is doing. People might want to give because they believe in the meaning of what she does. You know, apart from just the project itself, I think to do something with meaning, and the world has to start to think about why are you doing this? It's not just about the show, but why the show, how important the show is. So the platform is the last part, I think. There are a few platforms out there that they can research, but being at universities, there are other faculties out there that can help you to find out about how to sell, how to get the technical side going. Facebook has come up with all sorts of online shop and how to share videos and all that. But it's the monetizing part that will be the difficult part. How do you get the eyeballs to be loyal and give money? And that, I think, it's about storytelling and about the mission that you're doing, which is far more important than just doing a show. Yeah.
I think I like that idea. Yeah, surely platforms would be of help, but it's really the content that would give value to what we do. Thank you. Another question. I think there's another one. How different is the emotional impact now that we are experiencing it virtually? How do you ensure that it generates the same impact as it does physically in terms of the live event experience?
Sorry, can you repeat that? I lost, yeah.
Sorry, I think this is for Mr. Joe. How different is the emotional impact now that we are experiencing it virtually? How do you ensure that it generates the things that we do virtually, the same impact as it does physically?
It will never be the same, as Lynn put it out. You know, I'm an old man and I love life. I love feeling things and all that. But for the situation now, we have no choice. So you can't measure to measure. You can't compare. But you just have to make do for now. but also I like what Lynn said earlier, Lynn Yau, about at the end of the day, the technology is here to stay, and we should use it to benefit how we grow for the future. It is not just use it now because of COVID. How to grow your company, how to grow global eyeballs because of what you do. You can use both, but I don't think the audience impact is the same as a live show, a physical show, being in a park. The feeling of being in, like what Shiyun does, in local parks, local spaces, safe spaces where people of different layers and different levels can come in, it's not the same. I think the situation is hopefully temporary. It's something that we have to do for now, but I think we should learn how it could benefit us in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Joe, for that. As said earlier, also we should look at the other extrinsic properties of the art. So it's not the same kind of excitement that we get in the physical events, no, when we shift to the virtual events, because by then arts take on a different objective. We look for the other properties of the arts that would respond to the needs of our audiences. The needs are changing every day of our lives, and the opportunities are just knocking at our doors, depending on how we look at this crisis situation. Okay,
Sorry, may I just add?
Yes.
If you're comparing to like putting a film together, the millions that is put in a film, where it is all that layers, it's very different. People can enjoy films and it's full and in all that. But the live theater, live open spaces, it's a totally different feel, So I don't think you can compare. And I think there will always be a place for everything, films and online presentations, because you can use technology. Even dance is using technology now. And it can probably be holographic performances and all that in the future. But for now, I think this online thing is a tool that we have to use as an for adaptation.
Yeah, just sharing, because we were also thinking of going online. Maybe we can do a podcast, maybe we can be a celebrity out there, but it's like a completely different show. It's a completely different platform. You want to be an Uncle Roger, you have to produce that kind of content in order to earn from that. And I think then we realized, okay, this is not the thing that I want to do. But what I want to share is that in December, we did a fundraising called This Is Us, where we work with very different people. So we work with IG, the social influencers. So there's this guy who does eating contests, the competitive eating, nothing to do with our work, but he could fundraise for us and he could do it very well. So he did a 5 kg burger eating challenge. But on our part, we had to do, like Joe said, the storytelling. So we were focusing on making videos to tell our stories better. What are we actually doing on the ground? And then we partner with this, the people who are good with the IG, the social media, to bring the story across. Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Yishun. There's another interesting question here. How did the crisis alter how you deal with your clientele or fellow artists? What are some of the new parameters set in terms of dealing with clientele and fellow artists?
Okay, I'll start first because again I'm oldest. Yeah,
okay.
It's been difficult. I'm naturally a very strong person. I've survived 10 years of stress, total high stress living. But I can tell you that the last 2 years, I'm no different from anyone else, or what last 1.5 years. I've had dark black dogs coming to my door almost daily, and you go on a high and a low. You get so excited about ideas and all that, and then you come crashing down. So you just have to find strength. And I like what Shiyun said. It's to look at partners and people who either give you strength or who help you in your platform of your business. And this is a good time to have good friends. Mental health and mental well-being is very important. You've got to be very strong. And especially if you're heading an organization, you've got to captain it. You've got to keep being a good captain and making sure everybody's inspired to move on. And I like to think positive. So I go through this. I mean, it's not unusual for everyone to have dark moments. Even I've never had dark moments before. But this last 1.5 years, I've had maybe 7, 8, 9 types of black dogs that I've learned to tame.
Thank you, Mr. Joe. Miss Lynn.
Oh, I was hoping to fool all of you into thinking that I'm the youngest here, but obviously you've seen through my disguise. Anyway, we've been very lucky because we don't only work in the theatre. In fact, we only work in the theatre 8 weeks a year because it's government owned. We spend a lot of time outside in universities and schools. And one of the things that we've been doing with 2 special needs schools, they're called schools for social development, because these young people from the age of 6 to 18 cannot be in, how shall I say it, the other type of general schools, because they are deemed to have social and emotional problems. So they have been referred to these schools for social development. We don't necessarily do drama with them. In fact, with this this school for teenagers, they do set design, props design, costume design and making, including hair, jewelry, and everything, so that it's part of the vocational training for their careers. And working with artists who are mainly backstage people, in other words, the designers, have been tremendously positive in the last 1.5 years, because they're the backroom people who are never seen. And therefore they're much quieter, they're much more accommodating, and working with these young women have been very positive. So I think the emotional impact there has been transformative, where it's the quieter sides of the arts. And we are continuing. In fact, we had a showcase last week and the work has been phenomenal. Anything from hairdressing to costume making. There are the plus sides to COVID, not that I want it to linger. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Lynn. And I think we have, Miss Yishun, would you like to add to that? How has it changed the way you deal with your fellow artists?
Yeah, I think in the past 1.5 years, I think we gain a lot more empathy for each other. There's a lot of deeper sharing, I feel, because of the way we see each other. You know, there's the way we talk on Zoom or even on WhatsApp, and that we are all dealing with our families at home, you know, with ourselves while working. So I think that came through very strong. There was always a need for check-in. How's the family situation, and people would share these things, and I think that came through. Post-COVID and pre-COVID, you see that there's a lot of difference with that deeper relationship form. Yeah.
So that's the key word, empathy, because we tend to feel not only what in terms of what they deliver to in their line of work, but what's happening in their lives. We're also interested in that. We also consider these, factor in these things whenever we work with our fellow artists. Okay, so the last question. I think this is the last one. What lasting changes did the crisis cause your creative process? What are these changes that maybe would be there, would practically change the way we do things?
Okay, again, I think it's been quite good, this major stop. And I think it's made us all stop to rethink, reevaluate, rework why we're doing what we're doing. And certainly it's worked well for me, because I had to stop, I had to rethink and rework and resell myself out there, repackage myself, and then realizing that how I could do better, because I've had time to rethink what was my flaws, my mistakes, what I did wrong in the last 9 years, where I wasn't stopping to think. I didn't have that time to think. Now I did. So I really enjoyed this 1.5 years of rethinking. And I think I'm now armored with a slightly stronger meaning to where I want to go with my work. So it's been good. It's been good to rethink.
Thank you, Mr. Joe. How about Miss Lynn?
I agree with Joe. The rethink, the headspace. We have been too busy scrambling for funds, getting projects out, evaluating programs, discussing with sponsors. the rethink has caused two things for us. Number one, it's been a paradigm shift in pedagogical methods because of online. You have to change it. And it's not just plucking a lesson plan and putting it online. It wouldn't work like that. So we're still working through blended learning, number one. Number two is I've got to take care of myself, just as you have to take care of yourself. Because otherwise, how can you sustain this kind of thinking on your toes every single day? So look after yourself, everyone in the arts. You deserve it, because the arts really do great things. The third thing I've suddenly thought about is, can we not knock on government doors and say, let us come and do a workshop with you? You need to de-stress as well. And as we do that, maybe we can get some funding from them. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lin. Ms. Yishun?
Shiyun.
Sorry,
yeah.
Shiyun.
No, actually, I have nothing to add. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I totally agree with Joe and Lin. Yeah.
Thank you. So these are the lasting changes that would bear an imprint on our work. And I think that's very strong, no? The need to rethink, to rework, the shifts in our methods, looking for new meanings, taking care of ourselves, having more empathy, not only to our fellow workers, but to our audience, and taking on that sense of responsibility for social transformation. So all of these are the things that we learned from you this morning. Thank you very much. So we're not just going to build a new normal, but I hope with these things that we have in mind, we will build a better normal, not just for the arts, but for everyone. Thank you. And for now, that concludes our open forum. Thank you to our speakers, and thank you very much to everyone who submitted their questions. And we are now about to close the show, but before we do, let's show our appreciation to today's guests. So on behalf of everyone behind Crosslight, let me present the following certificates. So our AUN and AUNCA officials are already here. Ms. Jill Samodio and Dr. Scholtes Diratiti to turn the cameras. Okay, we're already here. And let me read the certificate that will be awarded to our speakers. The ASEAN University Network on Culture and the Arts, Commission on Higher Education, and the Association of Cultural Offices in Philippine Educational Institutions Incorporated present this certificate of appreciation to Ms. Lynn Yau, Ms. Lin Shiyun, and Mr. Joe Sidek for generously sharing their insights as plenary speakers on their respective topics under the theme Exploring New Technologies and Engagements for Young Artists and Art Audiences in the New Normal for the AUNCA Crosslight Online Learning Session, Day 4, given virtually this 25th day of June 2021. Signed, Ms. Glory Fesamodio, AUNCA Chair, and Dr. Scholtes Diratiti, AUN Executive Director.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe, Lin Shiyun.
And now for a special surprise to our attendees, the Crosslight Online Learning Sessions wouldn't be this successful if not for all of you who inquired, signed up, and blocked off all of your Friday mornings this June to attend all 4 webinars. And it's only fitting that we show our appreciation to you as well. So, here to present the certificates of participation to all our attendees, please welcome the Vice President of the External Relations and Internationalization Office of DLSU, Dr. Laurin Chu Garcia. Dr. Lane.
Good morning. The ASEAN University Network, ASEAN University Network on Culture and the Arts, Commission on Higher Education, and the Association of Cultural Offices and Philippine Education Institutions, Inc., present the Certificate of Participation to you, all our attendees, for actively participating in days 1 to 4 of the Aun-Ca Crosslight online learning sessions, given virtually this 25th day of June 2021, signed by Ms. Glorife Samodio, Aun-Ca Chair, Dr. Choltis Diratiti, AUN Executive Director, and Attorney Milia of the Commission on Higher Education. Congratulations and thank you for participating.
Thank you, Dr. Lin Shiyun. And of course, thank you to all those who have attended since day one. The names of those who with complete attendance are currently being flashed on screen. And again, we extend our gratitude as we were a vital part of these events' success. So, can you see that on screen? Can you see your names on screen, those with perfect attendance? And on that note, and for the last time in this edition of Crosslight online learning sessions, may we now invite all of today's participants to turn on their cameras as we capture this momentous event. Okay. So I think we have 4 pages on Zoom. Okay, get ready, everyone. Let's have this photos taken. So on page 1, ready? 3, 2, 1. And let's have page 2. 3, 2, 1. Page 3, ready? 3, 2, 1. And lastly, page 4. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Okay. May we now request everyone to turn off their cameras for our closing ceremonies? So before we formally draw this year's Crosslight online learning sessions to an official close, let's hear a few parting words from one of our organizers and a couple of distinguished guests.
Good day, everyone. Time flies really fast. Just a month ago, we were busy preparing for these learning sessions, and now we are done with the last one. We thank all the people and organizations who have helped make this event possible. The ASEAN University Network, the Philippines Commission on Higher Education, De La Salle University, the Association of Cultural Offices and Philippine Educational Institutions Incorporated, to our indefatigable Aun-Ca Executive Board and representatives, to our partner organizations, the Federation for Asian Cultural Promotion and British Council Philippines, to our creative and technical team, and to all our esteemed speakers from days 1 to 4 who have been so gracious and generous to share their insights and experiences to all of us as we tread through this pandemic. We hope you have learned a lot with all these sessions that we have put together for all of you, our student artists, our artist teachers, and arts managers. There may have been a good number of webinars we have all been to, but we really tried to provide you a program that truly hits close to home, to the work that we do for our student artists, the future of our respective countries' continuity of culture and arts. We hope that through these sessions, we were able to ingrain some seeds of hope to us educators to ensure a flourishing ecosystem for the arts and creative industries. We should always remember that we shouldn't only teach student artists, but more importantly, the arts audiences who will appreciate what our young artists are working hard for. We hope that we keep ourselves committed to espousing a creative campus environment, even virtually. Because if we all stop doing what we are doing in our cultural centers or offices in our universities, the arts as part of our everyday lives will simply fade away because both the supply side, which are the artists, and the demand side, which are the arts audiences, will cease to exist. We all know, and our speakers have verified, that in any part of the world, that the arts and the creative industries are greatly affected by this pandemic, especially that governments understandably prioritize mitigating the health situation. And so we might all ask, how do we now proceed after these sessions? With these new ideas we picked up at Crosslight, we all roll up our sleeves and we reinvent ourselves as teachers, as artists, and innovate our programs to respond to the needs of the students in this new industrial revolution. I encourage our colleagues to be more involved in the government programs for the arts. Just to share, in the Philippines, we have two rays of hope in terms of government policy making that all stakeholders, especially those in academic institutions, must be greatly immersed in. The first one is that our Congress has recently put up a creative industries committee and is now working on a roadmap to grow all the identified creative domains in the country. And the second one is the promulgation of the CHED Memorandum Order number 8 series of 2021, entitled Guidelines on the Implementation of Flexible Delivery of Student Affairs and Services Programs during the COVID-19 pandemic, where the development of campus culture and arts programs are part of. This memorandum is what we have all been waiting for in the Philippines, especially in Philippine universities, with the possible reinstatement of displaced colleagues working in cultural offices. Thus, I would like to take this opportunity for all the Filipinos in this forum to join us again on July 16 as we unpack this memorandum order together with other student affairs organizations in the country. Our Filipino Organization for Cultural Officers, ACOPay Inc., has a good number of possible programs in store for our colleagues in the coming months. For our colleagues in other countries, you are also welcome to join as observers, as you might also be able to contribute to the discussion. We'll provide everyone here in this forum a Zoom link for this meeting. So again, let's keep the conversation going. The AUNCA Crosslight Learning Sessions 2021 might end today, but we all keep the passion for the arts, artists, and arts managers alive. We are slowly building the AUNCA community, of which you are now a part of. We hope that you can also help us grow this community so we can gain a louder voice for the creatives. Thank you very much, and we hope to see you in our Crosslight events and Dialogues Research Forum in July. Be safe, everyone.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you present here in your part of the world. I know the time zones, differ, so I hope that you're comfortable wherever you are. The Commission on Higher Education, as well as the Cultural Arts Office of De La Salle University, have banded together to give you Crosslight for almost 2 months, spreading across those weeks, different events that enhance the experience in culture and arts. The ASEAN University Network actually is a strong partner of De La Salle University, and through them, we are honored to actually host 2 thematic networks, one of which is the Thematic Network on Culture and Arts. We are pleased that through this network, our ASEAN partners and other partners in different parts of the world were able to participate in this 2-month-long celebration of arts and culture in the region. I thank our guest speakers who graciously shared their time and skills through various workshops and conferences that were held during this period. At the same time, I say congratulations to all the participants for having been part of the experience through the workshops and the talks that were delivered. I would also like to say some personal thanks to Attorney Milia of the Commission on Higher Education, who heads both the international affairs staff and another higher office, for having been so supportive of all the activities of not just the Culture and Arts Office, but also De La Salle University. So in closing, I'd like to say that this has been such an enriching experience for all of us. And I hope that in the future, we shall be able to continue to collaborate on the different projects that have sprung across the different higher education institutions, not just all over the country, but also in the other parts of the world, including ASEAN. Thank you and have a good day.
To Dr. Choltis Diratiti, Executive Director for the ASEAN University Network, to Brother Raimundo Suplido, FSC, President of De La Salle University, to our reliable partner, Dr. Lorraine Chua Garcia, Vice President for External Relations and Internationalization Office of the De La Salle University, to Ms. Glorife Soberano Samojo, Chair of the ASEAN University Network on Culture and the Arts and President of the Association of Cultural Offices and Philippine Educational Institutions, Inc., to the program team, and of course, to all our beloved participants. Good day. We have reached the end of this year's ASEAN University Network on Culture and the Arts Crosslight Learning Series and Arts Festival. First, the Commission on Higher Education would like to extend our sincere gratitude and appreciation to our partners and organizers, especially our friends from the De La Salle University. With your enthusiasm and countless efforts, we were able to make Crosslight Learning Series and Arts Festival possible and a resounding success. Congratulations for a job well done. Second, allow me to also thank representatives of higher education institutions from the ASEAN Plus region, our participants, speakers, and everyone who tuned in since day one. This year's AUNCA Crosslight Learning Series and Arts Festival will not be complete without your presence. With the theme Innovate Asia, Strengthening the ASEAN Plus 3 Youth's Creativity and Resilience in the New Normal, the Crosslight Learning Series and Arts Festival 2021 aim to first share the best practices and gather insights in retooling for the new normal. Two, discuss issues and concerns of culture and the arts in the ASEAN Plus 3 countries. And third, strengthen the ASEAN Plus 3 identity through collaboration in culture and the arts. I hope that with all the virtual plenary and parallel sessions, arts based virtual workshops, and discussions prepared by our partners and organizers, and the knowledge of our esteemed speakers made this year's AUNCA Crosslight Learning Series and Arts Festival an exciting and memorable experience for our participants. The Commission on Higher Education believes so much in this effort of the De La Salle University and the ASEAN University, especially with respect to this thematic network on the culture and the arts. And we're really very happy that the De La Salle University, representing the Philippines, is spearheading this thematic network. With this belief that we have encouraged De La Salle to expand and really grow the theme and the ideas through this thematic network so that we can have more Philippine universities get involved on culture and the arts along the lines of this thematic network. And with this also, we encourage Philippine HEIs to network, to link, and to partner with other ASEAN Plus 3 universities in order to expand the studies, the experiences, and the exchanges in the areas of the culture and the arts. Let's make the rest of the activities of this year's AUNCA Crosslight Learning Series and Arts Festival filled with knowledge and festivities. Kami ay inyong kaagapay sa bawat takbang at sa bawat layunin na inyong pagtatagumpayan. We are your partners in every step of the way and in every shared vision that we have towards success. Hangad ng komisyon na sama-sama tayo magpadayon at dalisay na maglingkod kahit ano pa mang hamon. In short, it's just saying that the commission is here with you, united with you, as we are hopeful, as we continue to serve the greater common good, whatever the challenges lay ahead. Maraming salamat at mabuhay po kayong lahat.
Thank you, Miss Jill, Dr. Lane, and Attorney Lily for those very inspiring words. So here we are, much as it slightly saddens me to say this, since we've already learned so much, this officially marks the end of Crosslight online learning sessions. I speak for all when I say that I wish this year's edition will be the first of many. On behalf of my fellow hosts, Mr. Martin Lopez and Ms. Ami Ramolete, I'd also like to thank all our organizers and participating members from AUN, AUNCA, and ACOPE, to our guest speakers, and of course, I can't emphasize this enough, all our attendees. Do not fret though. The learning sessions may be ending, but our celebration of all things art will continue with the Dialogues Research Forum on July 23rd, the Crosslight Arts Festival from July 26th to 30th, and the Crosslight Film Festival happening on July 28, 2021. Deadline for submission of all abstracts, films, artwork, and film performances for all remaining events is on June 30, 5 p.m. All AUN and AUNCA members are welcome to submit their abstracts and works. And before we go, please take the time to tell us what you think of today's webinar by filling out the evaluation form, which you can access by scanning the QR code, which you see on screen right now. For more information, visit or follow AUN's official website, www.aunsec.org, and its official Facebook page. Once again, this has been Rika Palis, leaving you with this presentation encapsulating the month that was and those events that we will look forward to in July. Good day.